Hello again. Now in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to estimate the additional funds needed, or AFN. For estimating the AFN, we need to find the total asset of the last year, the sales revenue of the last year, changes of sales. Then we also need to know the current liabilities of the last year, the profit margin, the sales of the upcoming year, and dividend payout ratio. So before we estimate the AFN, let us create a separate worksheet for that purpose. Rename the worksheet as AFN. Now copy the content of this worksheet to the AFN worksheet and use value and source formatting, and we better delete the rows that contain previous information, because we will not need those. Whenever needed, we will link. And also, this is not statement of profit or loss, therefore we type that this is the estimation of additional. Okay, now let us try to list the items for estimating the additional funds needed. The first one is assets of the last year. Now we'll try to link the amount with the financial statement we have in our worksheet. So we put an equal sign and then go here and click the total asset cell. We get the total asset, but remember, because we want to be consistent with the formatting, so we just click the I think you know about this format painter, and then click this one. Well, now we also need the sales of the last year, so it will be equals, you know that we have it on the statement of profit or loss, so the sales revenue, that means total revenue, should be this one. Enter, and again we copy the format. At least we get the currency format, so we copy the format here, so we get the sales of the last year. Now what else do we need? We need the current liabilities. In fact, it should be the spontaneous current liabilities, but in this model I'm not going to that detail. We will actually make an assumption that all current liabilities are spontaneous. So right after linking the current liabilities, I will create another worksheet which will list the assumptions, because the assumptions are very much important. Current liabilities of the last year. So this one should be equals to, because we get the current liability from the statement of financial position. You can see the total current liability is here. Again, let us copy the paint the format. Now before I forget, it is always useful to create the assumption worksheet from the very beginning, because in the assumption worksheet you will list the assumptions whenever an assumption is necessary. Well, So let me rename it as I have renamed the worksheet assumptions. Let me type the list of assumptions. Number 1, the first assumption indeed was related to the sales forecast, where we have assumed that the next year growth rate will be average of last 3 years growth rate. Okay, therefore let me list the assumption here that next year growth rate of sales revenue would be the average of the last 3 years sales growth rate. Number 2 is the assumption related to current liabilities. Okay, so we type in that all current liabilities are spontaneous. Well, so we have got 2 assumptions so far. Now what else do we need? We need to know the change of cells, right? Change of cells. So actually we could have calculated the change of cells in the SF worksheet already. So let us do that here, and then we'll just put and then we will just make a link between this calculation and the list of items there. Change, not really change, we would say increase of cells in the year 2016. So that one should be equal to the cells into forecasted cells in 2016 minus actual cells in 2015. Okay, and now in the AFN worksheet, the change of cells in the year 2016, which we call delta S, should be equal to what we have already calculated in this worksheet. And again, to get the currency format, we just paint the format here. Okay, now what else do we need? We need the net profit margin. The net profit margin, or M. Now the formula of net profit margin is net income divided by sales revenue. So before we find the net profit margin here, we should remember that our assumption, that means if we use this net profit margin, that means the net profit margin of 2015, then our assumption should include that the net profit margin of 2015 will continue in 2016. So at first, list the assumption. The net profit margin of 2016 will be equal to that of 2015. of the year 2016 will be equal to that of the year 2015. So that is another assumption. The net profit margin of 2016, so this one should be equal to, as we have said, the net profit margin is equals to net profit divided by sales. So it should be equal to net profit or net income is available in the statement of profit or loss. We get it here, this item over the sales revenue here. So we get the net profit margin as 0.2087. If we do not want so many decimal points, we can reduce that. Maybe 4 decimal point would be okay. That is the net profit margin. Now what we need, the sales of the next year. We also need the sales of the, actually it should be forecasted sales, right? Forecasted sales of the next year, which we normally call S1. It should be equal to, from the sales forecast, it should be this one. Okay, format painter. Now we need another variable, another item, that is dividend payout ratio. The dividend payout ratio that we need for estimating the additional funds needed is not available in our statement of financial position or the statement of profit or loss. So we have to look for the information in the other financial statements or in the annual report. Okay, so let's say that we have found that the dividend is, the amount of dividend is in year 2015 was 457,906,800. Okay, so if this is the dividend, then we can calculate the dividend payout ratio. So the dividend payout ratio is equals the dividend in year 2015 over the net income. So we can get the net income in the profit in the statement of profit or loss, this one. So you can see that the dividend payout ratio is 0.20, but this one must not be in currency, therefore we have to change the format to percentage or maybe decimal. It is better to make it number format, okay, and keep it centered. So now we have got all the inputs necessary to estimate the additional funds needed. So let us keep one row empty, and then for estimating the additional funds needed, we need 3 items. One is the increase of asset. The other one is the increase of the spontaneous liability. And the third one is the internally generated fund, that is the fund from the retained earnings. So let us list all these. The first one is increase of assets. The increase of asset should be total asset in the last year over total sales revenue in the last year times the change of sales. Just now I remembered that I forgot to include the assumption that the asset to sales ratio will remain constant. Okay, so because we already have the assumption worksheet, so let us go to the assumption worksheet and key in the assumption right before we forget. The asset to sales revenue ratio will remain constant. And also we remember we can also type that type about the next ratio, that is the spontaneous liability to sales ratio will remain constant. Okay, well, so increase of asset should be equal to the asset of the last year over the sales of the last year. Now we have to keep this part within brackets, times the change of sales in the year 2016. So we get the increase of assets. Now we need to see how much the spontaneous liabilities will increase. Therefore we type increase of spontaneous liability equals, it should be the current liabilities of the last year over the sales of the last year. We must keep this 2 within bracket, times the change of sales. So we get the increase of spontaneous liability. Now internally generated fund from retained earnings. So this one should be the net profit margin. As you know, the net profit margin times the sales of the sales revenue of the year 2016. So did we list that here? Yeah, forecasted sales of the next year times 1 minus dividend payout ratio. So the dividend payout ratio is here. Okay, so we get the internally generated fund. Let us be consistent with the formatting. Therefore the additional funds needed, or AFN, is equals to, we know that it should be the increase of sales minus increase of spontaneous liability minus internally generated funds from retained earnings. Thus we can see that the additional funds needed in the year 2016 for this company is negative 16621000562.38, which means that this company will have surplus fund. Okay, the company does not need to generate additional fund from outside, rather the company will have additional fund. I would rather ask you to make the worksheet a little better by removing the double line border. So let us select no border, and we do not need to have the colored bold and red colored text. Rather, let us make it black and without bold, because all these are input. Okay, so, and also from view we throw out the grid lines, and what we can do, we can give maybe blue color or green color to the input information, and we can give the maybe another color, the blue, for the 3 components of the additional funds needed. And for the final one, maybe we use dark red and bold. Okay, and we can also use a bottom border here. Maybe we can keep this item within a box. These are just a matter of choice. You can do differently, no problem. And maybe we can put this part in thick border. So this is how we can estimate the additional funds needed for this company. Thank you very much.